Welcome to the Wizards of Ecom, your no-fluff playbook for online success. Each episode is fully packed with actionable tactics you can implement in your business right now. Take your life to a higher level and excel in your online success. It's time to work on you and your business. Let's do this. Welcome to the Wizards of Ecom podcast, where we cover all things private label. My name is Carlos Alvarez, and I will be your host for the show. In today's episode, we have Scott Voelker, the godfather of private label, in my opinion, in the Amazon space, the author of The Take Action Effect, host of Rock Your Brand podcast, and just all around great guy. Scott, welcome to the show.
Dude, man, it's been a long time coming. And Godfather, don't know about that, but we can talk about how you came up with that. But yeah, man, it's great to be here, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. No, I just have to say, I organize the largest Amazon seller meetup group in the world, and I've been blessed to just come around a lot of heavy hitter sellers in other people's eyes. And when I speak to everyone, it's kind of like, hey, how'd you get started? Like, really, what did you do? A lot of them had to do with your YouTube videos or the Amazing Seller Facebook group, which we'll touch on that a little bit in the show.
Sure.
And so it seems like a lot of it stems down from you, that you were the trunk of that. So yeah, kudos. I think it's well-deserved. If you don't want to take the title, that's on you. But so I am honored to have you on the show. There's not enough time on the show to really go over all the things. I think that, I made a list when I started this podcast, and who would I want on the show? And you were immediately one of those first ones. And I was just like, well, you know what? I got to build the show up a little bit before I reach that high. So some of the things that have really impressed me over the years with you, that again, not all of the things, but branding, succeeding on Amazon, community building, podcasting, becoming an author. Something I don't feel like that's touched on enough is also your constant hyper focus to have family first throughout all of that. So these are some of the things that have impressed me most about you. And the reason I want you on the show is I want to talk about one of stealing your book title, one of what I've found to be one of your greatest take action moments that I've witnessed, and that's the writing of your book, Take Action Effect. This is a book is something I've had on my to-do for 10 years now, and just have not had the stones to do it. So I want to talk about all of that to bring listeners in. I think everybody knows you. Definitely everyone listening to my show, I think, knows you, but to kind of set the stage here, you had or have the most world-renowned as far as Amazon Facebook group with the Amazing Seller, excess of 50,000 people. The Amazing Seller podcast, see if I'm saying this wrong, but over 13 million downloads at the time. Why it would have been stupid easy for you to put out a book about how to succeed on Amazon. Why the Take Action Effect and not an Amazon PL centric book?
It's a great question. Love it. Okay. Well, let me first off say that I never intended on becoming the private label godfather, right? Never planned on that. And my book, The Take Action Effect, is really everything that I have done from the time I graduated high school, to working for my father's construction company, to starting a photography business, all the way through, that led me to deciding to give Amazon a try. And so it really comes down to each part of that has been, the reason why I was able to kind of arrive at, the Amazing Seller, which was just kind of, I didn't even know if the thing, the podcast was going to work at the time. And I think honestly, the reason why it did succeed is because there wasn't a lot of specific Amazon focused podcasts. So in that, right, I was kind of at the right place at the right time. So I'm not ever going to deny that, but I was there, right? I was the guy that took action and seen that opportunity and said, I'm going to just start talking about it and just sharing my results with people, and kind of the Pat Flynn approach of he started a blog and he's just going to document, and the numbers aren't, millions of dollars, but they're a little bit further ahead than someone else. And I'm just going to document it and see what happens. And I remember, Carlos, I almost never recorded that first episode because I had started 2 other podcasts, which a lot of people don't realize. One of them was in the working out kind of exercise area. And then the other one was about business. It was actually called Business Marketing Fuel. And I did about 20-ish episodes, I think, of that one. And I didn't get a lot of traction. And I think it was just too broad. And then, so I said, if I'm going to do this again, I'm going to make it more specific. It actually came back to kind of bite me, because then all of a sudden, as I was starting to become known as the Amazon guy, I'm like, I'm sitting there and I remember having the conversation with Pat Flynn. And I said, I don't want to be known as just the Amazon guy. I got way more to bring to this world. And I don't want to talk about Amazon all the time. I want to talk about marketing. I want to talk about email list building. I want to talk about all the things that I've done in my previous life before the Amazon stuff. And that I still am going to do from here until the day I die, probably, because I love it and I enjoy it. And it's brand building. And, so I had that conversation with him, and I'm like, I was really struggling, because you're right. I could have put out a book and probably did really well with it about everything about Amazon, like how to be successful on Amazon, like the Amazon book. And I could have held that title, but that wasn't what was important to me. What was important to me was like, what is a piece that I could put together that documents and kind of like recaps my story, also where I'm going, the struggles that I've had, the struggles that I'm currently having, and letting people know that this is part of the journey. But also, what is something that I could let my grandkids read 25 years from now and go, oh, that's interesting. It's not just a Amazon fad thing, right? This stuff that I'm talking about in this book are things that are going to work 25 years from now. And it's also my story that I get to share the lessons. And it allows me to relate to other people, or people relate to me. So it's kind of like one of those things, like I wanted to have something that I could go on podcasts like yours and not just talk about Amazon, and being the Amazon guy. So that was the big reason on doing that. I'm not even sure if I answered your question fully, but it really came down to, you're right. I could have went down that road and said, trophy, like best-selling book for, how to make, X amount of dollars on Amazon, or how to start your private label business, or whatever. And I did not see myself wanting to continue and keep building myself up as that. I would rather take a few steps back and start building myself up of what I wanted to be, not of who I've become. Make sense?
No. It's genius. It's absolutely genius. On a much smaller level, I'm looking at you and what you did, and applying that to certain, like this podcast and a few other things as a rebrand, because I love Amazon. I think you love Amazon, or the selling on Amazon and the opportunity that it is. Mm-hmm. But it has felt confining to me. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like you're saying the same thing, that your success almost was like, this is extreme, but like the hug of death. It was like, the more you did, the more successful you became, and the more sort of boxed in to that success you became.
100%.
No, I couldn't. That's amazing. I love how you described that. Let's say something basic. I think you and I are on the same page with this, but for people listening to this, as you know, Amazon private labels, they have private label sellers. Everyone has a different opinion on what a brand is and brand building. So when you say that you love building brands, and the strategy and everything behind it, what does that mean to you?
It's funny, because I just had one of our members we have a Brand Creators Academy, which is a membership, and it's people building brands, and not just on Amazon, but just full out brands. And he had asked, actually this morning, I literally answered the question, what are your thoughts now in 2021 about Amazon being my primary focus? And do you still feel as though it's a good opportunity? And my response was, yeah, it's a great opportunity. Like, Amazon is still great. Like, who would not want to put products up on Amazon and be able to have traffic come from, their platform that drive over to your products and sell them, and then they fulfill them and all of that good stuff, right? Yes, it sucks that we don't get their email addresses. We can't communicate with those people. They're Amazon customers. That's all true, but it's still a great platform. What my idea and vision is, and it always has been, if you go back and listen to any of my past podcasts, before I rebranded as The Amazing Seller, I was always saying, like, if you're going to build a company, okay, not an Amazon business. So when you tell me I'm going to build an Amazon business, what the hell does that mean? Like, so you're building something on a platform and you're going to call yourself an Amazon business, right? That's risky. Like I don't know if it's happened to you, but it's happened to a lot of people that I've taught in the past. You get that little red flag up there and all of a sudden account is suspended. You were making 30K, 50K a month revenue and it's turned off. Red flag. So anybody that's listening to this, and I know your audience is Amazon sellers, if that happens, what are you going to do? That's the question you got to ask yourself. So what I always look at is like, what are my assets that I'm building externally that can help drive awareness and attention to it? So that helps to, pump up the algorithm and all of the good stuff that comes with that. But it also protects me because now if they should take my account down, at least I can take a portion of that and drive traffic to wherever I want to sell the stuff. It could be Shopify. It could be Etsy. It could be wherever I want to fulfill it. Amazon is just that channel. So when someone says, what does it look like to build a brand? Number one, you got to have a website. Like if you want to get brand registry anyway, you got to have a website, right? So if you don't have a website, to me, you don't have a business. Like what business doesn't have a website? So basic website, develop content that surrounds not just your product, but your market, your niche. So we're not going after a product. We're not going after the fidget spinners. We're going after a product that serves a market. I always use bass fishing as an example. I used to use garlic presses, right? But like bass fishing, if you're bass fishing, you're teaching people how to better their craft, right? How to enjoy themselves and then show off their bass, but you just happen to sell a whole bunch of lures, a whole bunch of gear, right? That's what a brand is to me. You have an email list that we get to communicate with people. Maybe you have a Facebook page or a group that you have. Maybe you have some digital products that you can offer. People in the physical product space don't realize they can, a lot of these niches that they're in can have a digital product. What would it be like if you didn't have to worry about just always having inventory and having something digital that just gets downloaded and paid for every day? You ain't got to do nothing. Until you've ever experienced that, you don't understand the power of a digital product. I've done both, still do both. And having a digital product is like the holy grail in my eyes. Okay. So to me, website, external assets that can be different feeder sites, right? Like the different content places. Pinterest, it's a great resource to drive traffic to your website. That website now you can either monetize it through affiliate stuff. It doesn't have to be just your stuff, affiliate stuff. Your email list, we drive traffic to our website every single week. So this way here we bring awareness, but also we might have products that sell on Amazon and we let people know about those too. So that to me is a brand. Amazon is a channel. Make sense?
Yeah, this is the first time I've really wanted to know how my stingers work on my Rodecaster Pro to hit that applause button. But since they're not working, I don't know how it would sound if I do it. That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. I have to say it is awesome too. Like people listening to this on audio, this will be on YouTube, but like being able to see the energy coupled with your words when you're doing this, you can tell you're somebody that's actually done this. And is not just talking about it. So I love it. For anybody just listening to this, jump over to the shows. You can see the energy.
I'm sweating right now, Carlos.
Look at this. Yeah. I'm
sweating. I'm in a flannel. I shouldn't be in a flannel. I should have taken it off today.
Yeah, Miami's definitely not flannel weather right now. Let me ask one more thing before the main thing I want to talk about is the book is what do you say to, I agree with you, by the way, 100%. What do you say to people that are, currently selling on Amazon? I'm going to say newer and are just like, look, I don't know how to do an email thing. And this person says, all I have to do is some rebates and some add to carts and some weird combination there. And it's very hands off. And it seems like to most people, what you're describing is harder and more expensive. What could you say to that?
Expensive thing, I don't know if I'd agree with that. Just because, what are we talking expense? Email provider ConvertKit starts for free for up to 1,000 subscribers. If you get on a paid plan, it starts at I think $29 a month.
Amen.
Website's going to be, your hosting is going to be, I don't know, go crazy and spend $8 a month. Get the deluxe plan. Your domain's going to cost you $10, $12, or you can get it for $1.99 on GoDaddy if you get like your first one for a discount. What's it really cost? If you're not creating the content, if you paid someone to create content, yeah, it's going to cost you maybe $30, $40 an article. Okay. but you're willing to spend how much on pay-per-click and burn and burn and burn when, okay, so let's say you spend a couple $100 a month on content that gets, organic search, that people are searching for what you have, and you bring over the right people. That's long-term. And if you ask anybody, ask Joe Valley over at Quiet Light. If you have a brand that has email list, it's an external channel, you have, Google traffic, Pinterest, anything you add additionally is going to add more to your multiple, guaranteed. Right. So I would say, is it harder? No, it's just a little bit more to learn. It doesn't mean that it's harder. It just means that instead of focusing on just how to either hack the Amazon algorithm all the time, or how to figure out the next update, or instead of doing that, just do good old fashioned basic marketing on Amazon, do good listings, good images, right? And from there, just get yourself a website, get it built, get some content started, build the email list of the right people, and then just start letting those people know that you have products on Amazon, you have content, and you just bring them into your world. It's not that hard. It takes time, but once you get it, you get it. It's like you got this system and this process. So it's not any harder. It's going to require a little bit of work in the beginning to learn it. And a lot of people I want to find the next one product. Carlos, you know as well as I do, finding one product that's going to take you to $1 million. Yeah, they're out there, but then what's going to happen once you get that product? There's going to be 10, 15, 20 other people that are going to rip that product off, and they're going to sell that same product. And now you're going to be just basically, it's a bid war on who can get it for the least amount. And then you're going to just liquidate that product and move on to the next product. So to me, wouldn't you rather have a brand that focuses around a niche that has multiple products? Also, those products that they can work conjunction with each other, right? So you have different lures, you have poles, you have bags, like all this stuff, versus let me just find the next product and just have this mixed brand of just anything. So it's not harder. It's just takes a little bit more learning in the beginning, not hard. And that's it. And then once you get it, you get it.
And subsequent product launches, there's not a great deal more to learn. And there's nothing more to buy. It's just rinse, wash, and repeat.
Right. And you're able to then build up a pre-launch. So, we all know Kickstarter works, right? Like people doing Kickstarters and they build, but it's because you're building up this anticipation. So maybe you're in a market, you're going to be coming out with, these 3 new bass lures that have never been, they've never been released before. And you have this expert fisherman that's saying like, these things are crazy. Like, I can't wait until we get to the final production of this thing. And then every week you're just putting out a new little teaser in a sense, a thing to get people excited. Then all of a sudden, pre-launch, get it for a discount. And then after that, it's like, we're live. We only have 1,000 of these. You better get them. And you have an email list built up. I mean, to me, that's, you're
selling stuff before it arrives.
100%. Yeah. I
love it.
Yep. Absolutely.
Now, let's dive into this book. I've read it and I've listened to it as an audiobook. The reason I got the audiobook was that I saw a Facebook post that you flew, I think, to California.
I did.
To, I guess, a recording studio. I'm thinking, I don't know why, but I'm imagining, I had just watched this Straight Outta Compton, and they were doing these rap videos, and it was this booth, and I don't know. I got this visual that it was like you in one of these booths doing it with a sound engineer or something. So I was like, it's his voice. Let's hear it.
Yeah.
Both great. How long before the Brand Accelerator Live conference where the book was released and I was there?
Yep.
How long before that has the book been on your radar as something you were going to do?
Well, it's funny because I was on John Lee Dumas's podcast probably 2 years ago, and he had asked me, he said, so when's your book coming out? And I'm like, it's a great question because I don't know what the book is yet, but I know there's something in there, kind of like what you're saying, Carlos. It's like, I know there's something in there, but I just don't know what it is. And then I just kept tossing it around, and I just didn't know how I was going to actually get it to happen, but it was definitely on my radar. And then I'm like, if I'm going to do this, I would love to announce it and have it be revealed at Brand Accelerator Live. So I was like, now this is going to also give me a deadline. I got to get it done. Plus, I'm able to tease, again, talking pre-launch, I'm able to tease it throughout the year. Like, hey, this thing's coming. I'm working on something. You don't know what it is. They didn't even know it was a book. I just said, I'm working on a special project, and everyone's going to get access to it for free, which they did. Everybody there got a hardcover copy of it. So it was on my radar for probably, I would say 3 to 4 years. And then when it got real was when I wanted to make this change, this pivot, which was happening well before I changed the name of the podcast. Then I did some, some soul searching a little bit. And then I did a little bit of reaching out to some of my mentors, one of them being Pat Flynn. And Pat said this one thing to me, Carlos, and this is something you might want to ask yourself. So he says to me, he says, and I should take that and like use that. It was an Instagram back and forth. We were audio texting each other. And I remember having the conversation about what I wanted it to be called. And he said to me, he goes, I want you to do this weekend. I want you to imagine that you're in a coffee shop and you're up there ordering your coffee. And 2 guys walk in. Carlos walks in with his buddy. And Carlos knows you and the other guy doesn't. How does Carlos describe you to him? Does he say, hey, there's Scott Voelker. He's the Amazon guy. Or does he say, oh, that's Scott Voelker. He's awesome. He's really good at online marketing. He's the brand building guy. What do you want him to say? What do you want to be known for? And what are you known for right now? And I said, man, yeah, in 5 years, I don't want to have someone walk in and explain me as the Amazon guy. And he said, well, you got your answer. It's going to take time, but that's what you want to be known for now and way into the future. And you can see yourself doing that. So the whole rock your brand, I was like, what could I come up with a name that I would want to talk about and kind of bring in my heavy metal days, right? Like my hard rock days. Like, what could I do? And I was like, man, something with rock in it, something with rock. And that's where rock your brand, because now brand, rock, I'm like, this is perfect. And I could stay in this forever because it's me. I'm not being the Amazon guy because that's what I was kind of, remembered as, or, thought of. How can I break that and be something that I could always be? And that's where that came. So the book, I made the final decision when we decided to do Brand Accelerator Live 2019. And then I actually signed with a company called Scribe, which they basically help you construct the book through interviews, through private sessions. And then they help you actually take all of your thoughts, all of your stuff that you want to put in a book and compile it. And then you work through it. And it was probably about a 10-month process, 10 months. And it wasn't easy.
I want to ask this before I forget it, then I want to jump back, but 10 months at how many hours per week?
Oh, God.
Are you looking at a part-time job?
In the beginning, yes. Every week I had 2 calls and those calls would range anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Wow.
And a lot of that was me just talking and telling stories, and they were digging is what they were doing. They were digging, and they would always say, don't read or don't talk like you're reading. Talk just whatever comes to mind, and we'll get everything distilled later, and then we'll be able to build off of that. And then they ask more questions, and then they'd ask more questions. So they would just constantly dig. And so I was kind of thinking like, is my conversation making any sense? Am I going, just like we are right now? And then all of a sudden it just started to come in and it started to shape. And then I actually had to get my hands in there and literally do some of my own editing, which I don't like writing. Everyone knows that. But I actually had to sit on a plane, and because I was on the way back from a plane, and it was crunch time, and I had to go through and make edits and add some stories that I forgot or whatever. And then they would go and clean it up and all of that stuff. So it was a long process.
Yeah. I remember at Brand Accelerator Live where you shared the story of, I couldn't recall that it was advice from Pat Flynn. By the way, I love how you just dropped John Lee Dumas and Pat Flynn as just a small thing. Being on those podcasts, that's amazing. I remember it was just as powerful hearing you say it now. I didn't know it was Pat Flynn that told you that about what do you want to be, what do you want people to know you as in 5 years? That's a good reminder hearing that now.
Yeah. Well, let me just say this too. Right now, where you want to be, not you, but maybe you, but whoever, you're thinking, man, if I could just have a podcast that reached, thousands of people, I wouldn't care if I talked about palm trees and how to grow them. It'd be amazing. Even though I'm not 100% into it, I would take it because it would just, I'd have an audience. I'd be able to, eventually monetize and it'd be cool to have a community of people. And then all of a sudden you get there and you're like, I'm not sure if this is where I want to go in the next 5 years. Right. So when you level up, when you climb that mountain, you get to a certain point and you're like, oh, this looks cool up here, but I want to go up there, or I want to go over there. Right. You are going to change as you evolve. You're going to change. And as your life changes, as you maybe have kids, things change, right? Like things will change. But don't just expect that you're going to arrive at the top of the mountain and everything's going to be amazing, because it most likely won't be. It'll be good for a minute. I say a minute, it could be a year or 2, 3, but then there's going to be a time that you start to do a little more soul search. You're like, is this really what I want? Is this worth the time that I'm putting in, or would I rather switch it, take a step back and work over here because this is what's going to really excite me, and yeah,
So you have a deadline. How do you feel when there is an actual deadline?
I work best under deadlines, to be honest with you. Same thing with the podcast. Like the podcast, every week, 3 episodes come out. That's been happening for 5 years. 900 and I just recorded 940 something. You know what I mean? Like, have not missed one. There's a deadline for me internally. Monday, I need to have the week before's done. Right. So if there's any intros, outros that need to be recorded, they got to be done by the end of the day, Monday, nothing else. Right. And so very, very strict on deadlines. But when I had the deadline, it was nice because I knew what I was shooting for, but I also had help in this case. Right. So I had more or less accountability because I had the company that I hired to help me. And then I actually built a really good relationship with what they call your scribe. Actually she, I had her come to the event on stage. And it was just an amazing experience all the way around. It was emotional. It was great. Had Pat Flynn on stage and Jamie Masters. So that was pretty cool. It was a dream. Yeah, it was actually a dream come true for me, Carlos.
Yeah, it was a heck of a lineup. It was a heck of a lineup that you had there. Absolutely. What scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the least difficult, 10 being the most difficult thing you've done in your life, I guess personally or professionally, where would you put writing this book?
I think writing the book was probably, I would say probably up there. I would say I'd give it like a 7.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah, it is. It is because, again, if I was to think about sitting down and writing the book myself, that's scary to me because I'm not good at typing. I'm not good at, I'm better at this and then having someone transcribe it and then clean it up and edit it. So that part was hard. Then also the other thing that was hard was I knew I was writing something that was going to live on, right, for a very long time. And so I wanted to be conscious of that. So not hard necessarily always as far as like doing the project, but mentally the bandwidth. And when you get done with those calls, man, you're just fried. You're like, whoo, I need a break.
Can I mention something? I don't know.
Sure.
I've never interviewed an author, so I don't know if what I'm allowed to even say about inside the book, but can I mention something from in the book that I've repeated several times?
Sure.
And I think would help listeners is you mentioned something in the book about how, I'm going to get this wrong, you can clean it up, but it's that I guess it kind of kills you when you hear people say, I don't have time to grow my business or anything like that. And you mentioned you built a house exhausted after work with 2-3 hours a day. You built a house.
Yeah. I did.
I don't know.
Funny.
Did you know that was going to be that impactful when you wrote that?
I didn't, but I tell that story a lot, and that's why I did make the book. And I actually literally just said that conversation to my son, who's 22, who we were in the yard with 8 yards of crushed stone. And I'm like, we're going to move this stuff. And he's like, oh, in one day. I go, yeah, like the light, the sun is out. We're doing this, right? Like Scott's got like start job, finish job. But anyway, so I had mentioned that story to him too. I go, imagine looking at our house. Now our house is a pretty good size house, like 3,600 square feet. And I go, look at that house. I go, imagine all you had was a foundation and you had to build that entire thing all the way through to your finishes, your bathroom, your toilets, everything. And you manually did that all yourself. I said, I look back at that and I go, holy crap, I don't know how the hell I did it. I was young, had a lot of ambition. But it's when people say, Scott, I don't have time. And I'm like, okay, well, what's your day look like? Well, I work 9 to 5. Okay. I would have loved to work 9 to 5, by the way. 9 to 5 is like banker hours for me. Like I'd have been cool. 5 o'clock. I still got light at the end of the day. Right. So I'm like, okay, 9 to 5. What happens after 5? Well, the kids, we got to do this. Okay. What time you go to bed? Well, I try to get to bed by 10 because I got to get up early. And I'm like, got sacrifice, man. I remember finishing up a gable part of my house. I can still see it. I was putting up these, they call them fish scales. They're not really in anymore. They used to be. They're like these fish scales. They're like decorative, these siding pieces up there. And I was up there on a 36-foot ladder. My mother-in-law lived about probably around 400, 500 feet up on a hill. And I was there at 2 a.m. in the morning with floodlights to finish that because I had to be to work the next day. And I wanted to finish that gable end. Right. So my whole mindset's always been like, I got time. I might sacrifice some sleep every now and then, but I got the time. So whenever someone says, I don't have the time, I say, listen, I was 24, 25 years old, working 60 plus hours construction. So you're physically tired at the end of the day. I'd get up, probably 5:30, be to the shop by 6:30. And then I would start my day. Sometimes I wouldn't get home till 6, 7 o'clock, even 8 o'clock. And then I would still go and put in a couple hours building my house. It took me 11 months to build a house from scratch, weekends, nights. And I did that. And again, I had a deadline. My son was going to be born and I built the house, 2 months before he was born. And now he's 22. But that was my deadline.
It's impressive. What you obviously didn't write the book to get people to build homes. So let's take it to email marketing. I think we both agree that email marketing is ridiculously important. Mm-hmm. And let's say that we know somebody that, just started selling or maybe, shot first before aiming and mm-hmm. has some goods on the way, still plenty of time. Yeah. And they're listening to this or they listen to your podcast and they're like, I think building an email list is important, but I know nothing. Like I don't even know Outlook, Gmail, what does that house building, working a few hours extra after everything's said and done, how does that translate into learning that new skill? Could you paint out like the first week or two?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny that you bring that up because I do look at everything as a build, right? Like, and I said that to my wife the other day. I said, listen, because people say, Scott, like when you retire, what are you going to do? I'm like, I'm kind of retired now. I do what I want to do. Like, I'm not like working to work. I'm working because I like it and I enjoy it and I'm helping people, but I also like building things. I'm building 2 niche sites right now as case studies in our academy because I just want to do it. Right. So I enjoy the build. So if email is, I've got basically 5 different stages in the build of your properties and stuff, but stage 3 is really list building. Like after we get our we got to pick our market and our niche, and then we got to validate that there's a lot of potential there. Then from there, we got to build our website. We got to get that going. Then we got to create a little bit of content just to kind of, fill it in, get the furniture in. And then from there, we want to start bringing awareness to it. And that's where we're going to build the list. So building the list, there's different stages to that as well. So the first part is we need to attract the right person. Like I can't tell you how many people go, I'm going to build a list. I'm just going to give away an iPad. No, not unless you're selling like, cases for iPads. You don't want to give away an iPad. What you want to do is you want to give away something so there's 2 different ways that I do it. The giveaway, okay, like a contest to bring awareness to everything that you're selling. So if it's a bass fishing, let's say that you're going to give away the ultimate bass fishing kit. Doesn't even have to be your products. It could be other people's products. You just pool them together and you're bringing attention to say, this person said, I am interested in bass fishing. I would love to win that. Okay. So that's like one way. The other way is just a standard lead magnet, which is like 10 tips to catch bass, or to win your next bass fishing tournament, something like that. That's your lead magnet, free opt-in, we call that, right? So we need something that's going to attract the right person. Very important. Okay. So that's the very first thing. But if people get hung up there, they're like, well, how do I come up with something? Come up with a checklist, right? 10 things you must do before you go to your bass, fishing tournament or whatever, right? That's the download. Okay. So you just got to come up with that. And you can literally look at your market and probably see other people that are doing it and just get ideas from what they're doing, or see what someone else is doing in another niche and then just adopt that to your niche. So that's step number 1. Step number 2 is we got to put it somewhere. We call it a landing page. Now inside a ConvertKit, they give you now landing pages. So inside of there, you don't even need ClickFunnels if you don't want to. You don't need Kajabi. You don't need lead pages. You don't need any of that stuff. You can just use it right in your email program or provider. So they give you a landing page builder, and that's your landing page. That's your little mini website page. Okay. And they actually have a plugin for WordPress that you can connect it, but you don't even have to get that fancy. You can just let them host it. So you put your lead magnet up there, enter your name and email address to receive it, and then a catchy title. 5 ways to catch more bass in a pond, right? The ultimate guide. That's it, right? Then we got to get traffic. So there's a lot of different ways we can do it. If you got any type of social media, you can put it there. You can reach out to admins of Facebook groups and see if they're willing to do it, or you can do what I do and just run $10 per day on some Facebook ads and build a list that way. And then just bring attention to it. And then you're just driving targeted traffic through Facebook, driving them to your landing page. And then from there, you're getting email opt-ins. And then from there, you're going to give away something of value, obviously in the giveaway, or the lead magnet is going to supply that for them. And now you have someone that is interested in your market because they raised their hand because of the lead magnet. You can literally get that all done in a week, by the way. And actually, I teach that inside. We've got something called the Email List Building Fast Track Workshop. It's a 3-hour workshop. It's designed to exactly do that right there. So we can build a list to 500 subscribers in less than 30 days. Like, that's the goal. So that's the one part of that build.
Yeah. And it's shockingly affordable. Like, I reached into it. I'm like, really? So a week, you stole my thunder there. That was the next question. So somebody can build this out in a week. Is that including, that they're ready to start spending $5, $10 a day in Facebook ads? Is that including the creative on the Facebook ad and the copy of what should be in there? All of it, soup to nuts, in a week.
In a week. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to give people something really, really crazy. Okay. I did one of these for our Brand Creators Academy as a case study. I wanted to show them what one of these looks like, and I wanted to show them all the mechanics behind it. Right. And so then I also said, well, let's do it in the Email List Building Fast Track Workshop. Let's kind of show them like what this looks like. So literally, I threw together a lead magnet, not even using like a PDF or a Word doc. What I did was I took 10 posts on my website that were all about this topic. And then from there, I just included the links on a page on my website, and I directed people to that page. That was my lead magnet. So it was basically just like, I made it easier for you to find the stuff you needed on my website. And I had people thanking me for that. Like, they're like, oh my gosh, it saved me so much time. Thank you so much. Right? Like, so it doesn't have to be hard and complicated. It just has to deliver a small result for what they're looking for. Or if you're going to do a giveaway, it's got to be something that that they'd be excited to get and use.
Yeah. That's perfect. Curated content. That's
yeah, 100%.
Cool. Stuff you've already created, you've already paid for, it's done. You may be forgetting about it. That's genius.
100%. 100%.
What were some of the main goals? They may have changed over time, but what were some of the main goals when you wrote the book, and did you hit all of them?
Okay. So the main goal was not to be like a Wall Street, journal, bestseller. To me, it was not ever about that. I didn't want to put the pressure on myself for that, to be honest with you. Honestly, if all I did was write that book and the 200 plus people that were at the event got a copy, to me, it would have been worth it. Like, it literally would have been. The comments I got back from everyone on that, just from the event, was priceless. Even you saying like you pulled that one piece out of there that just kind of resonated with you. I'm like, perfect. Now, do I want it to reach thousands of people? Of course. And I think over time, it will continually do that. To me, it was more about the long play, not the short game. And I also did not want the pressure of doing this massive launch. I just didn't want it. I didn't want the stress. I just came off of, Brand Accelerator Live, which was crazy all in itself. That was stressful, but in the end, it was amazing. Wrote the book. I did workshops at the lake house, so I had a lot of stuff on my plate. I actually bought a lake house and redid it to do the Airbnb. So there was that. So that year was just absolutely crazy. So I'm like, I cannot put the pressure on myself to do that. So I think the goal has been met because it's reaching people. Is it reaching thousands of people per day? No. Do I care? No. to me, it's like one person at a time. So I don't look at it as markers as like how many people, how many copies has sold. Cause we all know you're not making money on the book. It's not about making the money. I mean, you make a little bit, but it's not about making the money. It's about how do you get someone to pick up the book or refer the book, and then it brings someone into your world. And then someone becomes a podcast listener. And then someone becomes a YouTube subscriber. And then someone buys one of your programs. And then someone comes in, and comes to the lake house now. You know what I mean? Like, to me, it's a way to build the connection for you to personally be able to connect with them. And then they can adopt your methodology if they want to.
And for that goal of bringing people into, your world, by your definition, do you feel that it was a success?
Absolutely. 100%. Again, it's kind of hard to measure because you can't say like, okay, well, this link in the book got clicked here, and then how many people joined. All I can tell you is people say all the time, I listened to your podcast. Man, I feel like I know you. I read your book. I feel like you're a lot like me, right? I've watched the YouTube video. Man, I love your energy, right? Like, so when you hear that stuff collectively, it all works, right? Is it worth the time and energy? It depends on what you're going to classify. Is it worth it for you? For me, I've got something that I can hold in my hand, and I can literally, there you go. You got your copy. So I can hold it in my hand. I can hand it off to someone. And now I can go on a podcast and say, I wrote a book. You should go check it out. You know what I mean? Like, go get the audiobook, because you want to get both. You know why you want to get both? Because in the audiobook, I do these little rants every now and then, right? I go off script. I like that when other authors do it. So I wanted to do that myself, and it was fun.
I call it going Scott.
Yes.
Like, when you do it, I'm like, he just went Scott.
Yes, I did. Yeah. And that was a lot of work, man. That was a lot of work. The recording of the audiobook.
Had you never, I just assumed as a podcaster, a prolific podcast creator, you would think that you were just God's gift to that. What was that? What was that like?
Well, the thing is, when you're podcasting, you're not reading. You know what I mean? So even though I wrote it, I'm reading, right? So in order for you to get in that flow and that cadence and make it sound normal, and it doesn't sound like you're reading, it takes some time to get through it. So just to kind of put that in perspective, I booked the studio for 3 days, 6 hours each day. All right. So I booked it for that much time. I needed 2.5 days. I didn't need the rest of the third. But it was from like 9 o'clock, and then I'd go till 12 o'clock, and then I'd take a little half-hour break, and then I'd pick right back up and go the duration. And it was literally that, me sitting in a room, you got an engineer listening, and then he would stop you, go, oh, can you go back and do that line again? And there was actually a couple words. I knew what the words were. I couldn't even pronounce them right. It was just like, I'm like, what the heck's going on here? I wrote this thing. I know the word. It's just not the sentence wasn't flowing. So I had to go over that and over that. And then the more you think about it, the more conscious you are of how it sounded. And you're like, is that really how it sounds? It doesn't sound right. And so, yeah, it took a little time, but it was fun. And the engineer sat there with me the whole time.
So it took you about 16 hours to record that. And to also put, I feel like this gives some perspective, is the audiobook's 4.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So there must've been a lot of, nope, stop, do that again. Like, 11 hours worth.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. A lot of start, stop. And the way that you would do it, Carlos, if you ever do it, just to kind of give you a heads up. So it's kind of like you read a part, right? And then if you make a mistake, you just stop. You don't say like, I'm going to do that again. You just stop and you go. So when I was thinking about doing this, people tell me I don't have time. Well, I'll tell you what, you do have time, because I built a house. and you know what I mean? Like, so that you would actually stop and then start, and then that gives him markers. So once you get in that, now he may cut in and go, hey, Scott, stop, go back and read from this. And then I'd pick it back up, because he didn't like the way that flowed or whatever.
You don't have to share an exact number, but like, how costly was, how much of an investment? Let's say that a different way. Like, how much of an investment was that?
The book itself, I think the recording time, it wasn't that bad, actually. I think it was under $2,500.
Wow. I was thinking like 2,500 a day.
No. No, you book the hours and then there's editing involved. So yeah, 2,500 to $3,000, probably all in. So that wasn't bad. Writing the book was a little more expensive. That was a little more expensive.
Are you able to share that? I'm looking at Scribe.
I can share that. Yeah.
I know they have a lot of different plans.
Yep.
Knowing your experience is really having me want to go that way. So if you have a link or a referral code, I'll definitely use yours. But
yeah,
what do you mind sharing that? Like,
yeah, absolutely. So Joe Valley, who was at Brand Accelerator Live, has just finished his book, and he's like, "Hey Scott, thanks a lot. Like it was amazing, but man, it was a lot of work. And now that I've spent X, but it's done. Yeah, it's not cheap. So when it's changed now. I think it's as high as like $40,000 right now. I don't know. Have you looked recently on what they're charging?
I think the last I saw was like 25, 30. They had some different plans, but I could tell those lower plans were not really what I was looking for.
Well, I think the lower plans might be coaching. Right. So it might be like, we'll coach you through it, but you're going to actually do a lot more of the legwork. They didn't have that really. I think they had like a workshop. Like if you wanted to go and do a 2-day workshop, they'd actually help you outline it and help you do all that stuff. And I'm like, listen, I just want to show up and have you guys tell me what questions you want me to answer, what stories you want me to tell. And you guys really unpack, and then you kind of distill it and put it into a really well organized and one that flows good. I wanted it all to flow. And the first half of the book, as you know, is really a lot of mindset stuff. And then we switched into tactical, the second half, and that was by design. So yeah, I think overall, all said and done, I think it was right around $38,000. Yeah, it's right around $38,000.
That's a solid investment, and it lives forever. Mm-hmm. My mind jumped to, and you could debunk this real quick. My mind jumped to, well, if I could flesh out sort of the chapters, couldn't I just pop open, drag and dictate and get my mic and just start rambling on and then send it to an editor? Do you feel like your experience was completely different than that?
No, you could absolutely do that. I think the good part about what they do, and again, it's finding the right scribe, right, that they assign to you. So I really think that's the key, because even though you're going to map out your chapters, let's say you're going to chunk them out, it may be better to have another perspective as like your author coach, right, that has written books before, and that can say, we really want to break this down here. We want to break this out a little bit more. We want to go a little bit deeper here. So for me, it was, yes, I could have did exactly like we're doing right now. And I could have outlined it the best I could. I could have just riffed on a whole bunch of different things and then had an editor go in. Like I've got an editor right now that does all of my playbooks and stuff. Like I'll just do like podcast episodes, and then she, takes it and makes it into this amazing piece. But she does a lot of reworking of it, and it is a lot less expensive than that. But it's me just having her take what I've already said and edit it and kind of break it down.
I'm sorry, can you do that again? You record what, and it turns into what sort of playbook?
Well, yeah. So I've got like my brand creators playbook, right? Uh-huh. So this was 5 podcast episodes. It's 108 pages, I think. But yeah, I mean, it's all, that's all audio, but yet then I, took it and then brought in screenshots. And so this goes through like the 5 stages of building your brand. It's $4.99. I'm not making money on this. There's a bump there for an audiobook for like $12.99 or something, whatever it is at this time. And then that leads you to Brand Creators Academy. You know what I mean? So it's a paid lead magnet, let's call that. But this was like 5 episodes that I planned. Now that's the key, Carlos. I planned those. I said, I'm going to record 5 podcast episodes. I'm going to outline them beforehand, right? Not like write them word for word. I'm just going to say, these are the things we got to cover. And then I'm going to go riff on them. And then I'm going to take those. They're going to live on my podcast, so everybody gets those. And then I'm going to take those and bring them in, and I'm going to have an editor go through and have it flow like a book would, and then break it out. And then if there's anything else I got to add, we can always plug it in later. Go ahead. Did I understand that the editor was from Scribe? Or is this just an in-house editor of yours? No, actually, yeah, she's awesome. She's actually was a listener. She's actually a Academy member, and she actually has done a lot of dictation and transcriptions. But she's got a gift for really and And she knows my voice. That's the other thing, is like when you know someone's voice, there's words that's the other thing. Like my scribe had to learn me. So they would come back with edits and they would make some changes. And I'm like, I would never say that word. It just that's not me. I'm not that intelligent to say that word, right? Like I'm Scott, like I'm going to say got a lot. Right. So no, this lady here, she's been one of my listeners for a long time. And she reached out to me years ago and said, hey, I'm a transcriptionist by day, entrepreneur at night. And I'd love to know if you had any projects you'd like me to work on. I'd love to help you out, but also I'd love to, kind of work with you a little bit closer. I said, sure. And so, yeah, we've got a really good relationship, and she does all of my stuff. She doesn't do it anymore for anyone else because she doesn't want to do that as a business. She's actually building her own brand right now. But it's been a great connection.
Everybody gets around you starting their own brand. So you knew that was coming. How about this? You can say you don't want to share. Is there another book like cooking in your mind right now?
There is. And I just don't know. I'm just not quite sure how I'll get there. But yeah, I think because we talk so much about, brand building, I don't want to go through all of the aspects, because I really feel like if you can build up an audience, you can pretty much write your own ticket. So I know Pat Flynn's done, super fans. It's similar, that idea. I'd have a different take on it, but I think some type of audience building, list building, a way to nurture relationship, create bonds that are just automatically getting people to feel so connected with you that they'll buy from you. So something in that arena, I just don't know. And I don't want to be another Superfans book. But there is something there because I've done it numerous times. I did it in the photography space. I've done it here in the podcasting space, and then pivoting. I've thought about pivoting. That's another great book topic. I think that a lot of people would be interested in is, how do you do a pivot? Like, how do you get out of your box because you've been cornered? So that's another one. Maybe I'm pivoting or something. I don't know.
Final question on a less serious note. Rock Your Brand podcast. Is that you on the guitar in the intro jingle or no?
I'm trying to think of the one that you're listening to. So the very beginning one. No, I don't believe that one is.
Okay. Like I mentioned earlier, you offer a shockingly affordable strategy sessions and list building and workshops and stuff. Can you mention a little bit about that? And then, as well as, so I can be respectful of your time, how people can reach out to you to learn more about what you've talked about here and everything you offer?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first thing is the book, right? Like, so I'd be crazy not to say, hey, go grab a copy, take action effect. It's practical advice, but also it allows you to kind of look through the lens of not going out there and being perfect at everything, but just taking imperfect action. And then that will lead you to some moments in your life that you make these decisions, and then it just clicks. And then it leads you. Like I said, the biggest thing with the take action effect for people to understand is, like, every action you're doing, you're learning something, and that will open a door somewhere else. So we have to get ourselves into action mode, not just in consumption mode, right? I'm a big believer in, like, taking the action, even though you might not think it's perfect, because then you're going to get a result that we can then say, hey, you know what? If anybody's a football fan, we just ran a play, didn't work. They clogged the hole. We got to go ahead and create something new. Let's go to the drawing board. Same idea. So we got to take that imperfect action a lot. And that will lead us to more of those take action moments, as I call them. So the book, takeactioneffect.com. Now, the other thing is, I would say the podcast. Again, I can sit here and talk about the workshops that I've got going on. I've got 2 workshops, actually 3 now. And I've started developing these little mini micro trainings, because I think people are so overwhelmed with, like, a full-fledged course, right? Like, oh my gosh, I got to go through this course. It's 7 modules. It's going to take me 7 weeks. And before I ever get to do anything. And I'm like, I don't want to go through a 7 module course. I want to get something that I can take action on right now and implement it within 3 hours and start building it in a week. Right. And that's where these fast track workshops came up. I started them, tail end of last year and now this year. So I've got one that's called Niche Finder Fast Track Workshop. So that one there. I've got one that's the Email List Building Fast Track Workshop, and I've got a Digital Product Creation Fast Track Workshop. They're all under $50. You can find them on my website. And then the other thing is our Brand Creators Academy. That's by invitation only. So it's not open to the public. It's only for serious people that are considering building a brand, but they want to be surrounded by other people building brands. And we're totally transparent in there. Everybody sees everybody's brands and niches and all of that stuff. But basically just the podcast, man. Rock your brand, go to iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you listen to your podcast. And just have a listen there if you're interested in building a brand. That's about it, man.
Scott, before I let you escape from the show, something I ask everybody on the show: what is your favorite book and why? You cannot say your own book.
Okay, I won't. I would say another book with effect in it, and that is The Compound Effect.
Yes, sir.
Great book. It's like these little micro actions, right? To me, they build up over time. It's like compound interest. The more that you just keep doing these little small actions, getting into the routine of doing these small daily, weekly, monthly actions, they will start to compound like compound interest. And one last one real quick that I'm going to throw in there, a second one. Actually, it's on my shelf here. And this is done really good recently. It's called Tiny Habits. Very, very similar to the compound effect, but these are like tiny, small habits, very tiny. So what he does a lot is, like, we all say, oh, we don't have time. Do you have time to brush your teeth every day? You do, right? So bolt on a little small micro action step right near that one action that you do every day. So it's like a trigger. So for an example, I like to try to be in shape and stuff. And I'm like, what could I do that I could always do push-ups every day? So I'm like, brush your teeth, do 50 push-ups. So now every morning I brush my teeth, get down and do 50 push-ups every morning without fail. I still exercise, I do my other stuff, but there is that one action that never gets missed. So if you have something that you could bolt something on, that's a trigger that you already do, right? Then just bolt it on there. And that's what that book really is about, is like, how do you create these small little tiny habits? And then you can compound those with the compound effect kind of idea.
Compound Effect, I read. Absolutely. Amazing book. Tiny Habits, I have not. I'm going to be ordering it on Amazon.
Yes.
As soon as we wrap this up. Scott, you're amazing. I love how genuine you are. You dropped a lot of value. I truly appreciate it. I think you may have tipped the scales for me to go ahead and reach out to Scribe and get some kind of book that I don't know what going, but I'm just going to take action, I guess you can say.
There you go.
Huge thank you.
Awesome, Carlos. Well, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate you, brother. And let's stay in touch.
It was fun sharing this episode with you. If you found value in what you've heard, please show your love with a subscribe, rate, and review of the show. Until next time.